YouTube channel? Huh? Yeah, what's your YouTube channel?
YouTube channel?
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Balava Girivaradhari Gopijana Balava Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Prajajana Randana Yashoda Nandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Balava Girivaradhari Gopijana Balava Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Balava Girivaradhari Gopijana Balava Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Banachara Yamunatira Banachara Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Gaur Premanandi.
Okay if I introduce.
Okay, yeah, don't get too carried away.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. It gives me great pleasure to welcome His Holiness Kavichandra Swami Maharaj to our temple. I speak a few words about him for those who are new. Kavichandra Maharaj met the Hare Krishna devotees in 1967 and then was initiated by Srila Prabhupada in 1971. He joined the temple in Tucson, Arizona, and since that time he has served in various capacities around the world. From 1973 to 1977, he was busily distributing books to libraries, universities, and also one-to-one book distribution, including leading the book distribution team called the Radha Damodar Sankirtan Party. He's also preached Krishna consciousness in Fiji. He also served at one point of time as a manager in Radha Rasbihari Temple in Juhu, and also as temple president in Tokyo, Japan. Maharaj accepted the sannyas vows in 1982, and after that in 87, Maharaj started to serve as a GBC member for Japan. Slowly his responsibilities increased to culturally diverse locations like Thailand, China, Indonesia, Greece, and also West Africa. Maharaj is a member of the GBC Executive Committee, and last time when Maharaj came, he was speaking about how he regularly still distributes books one-to-one. He was speaking a story how in a Tokyo subway, he was distributing books one-to-one. So even at this age, he's distributing books. And he invests a lot of time in devotee care. He writes a lot of articles on devotee care, participates in conferences, and actively propagates this concept of devotee care. He's inspiring by his own example. As a traveling preacher and initiating spiritual master, he has many disciples all over the world. And Maharaj, we are very grateful to you for coming here. We are missing you for a long time. Thank you for coming here. So we'll like to welcome Maharaj in our traditional style by loudly chanting 3 times.
Looks like a much smaller crowd than previous times. Everybody just goes online now. Working at home, son at home. So this is Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 12, right? Verse 34, the birth of Maharaj Pariksit. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Idam Bhagavatam Nama Purana Brahma Samhitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishayasaya Lokasya Danyam Swastaya Namahat. Auspicious and good for everyone. Okay? So, Tena Sambrita Samitam Dharmaputra Yudhishthira Vajamedai Tribir Vito Yagnai Samayajad Darim Tena Sambrita Sambaro Dharma Putro Yudhishthiraha Vajimedaistribirvito Yagnai Samayajadarim Tena Sambrita Sambaro Dharma Putro Yudhishthira Vajamedaistribirvito Yagyai Samayajadarim Tena Sambrita Sambaro Sambayajadarim Tena Sambrita Sambaro Dharma Putro Yudhishthiraha Medaistribirvito Sambayajadarim Tena Sambrita Sambaro Dharma Putro Yudhishthiraha Ladies, anybody here? No? Sambaro Dharma Putro Yudhishthiraha Vajimedaistribirvito Sayajadarim Tena, with that wealth, Sambrita, collected, Sambara, ingredients, Dharma Putra, the pious king, Yudhishthira, Vajimaidai, by horse sacrifices, Tribi, 3 times, Vita, being greatly afraid after the battle of Kurukshetra. Yagyai, sacrifices. Samayajat, perfectly worship Harim, personality of Godhead. Translation. By those riches, the king could procure the ingredients for 3 horse sacrifices. Thus, the pious King Yudhisthira, who was very fearful after the battle of Kurukshetra, pleased Lord Hari, the personality of Godhead. You can repeat. By those riches, the king could procure the ingredients for 3 horse sacrifices. Thus, the pious King Yudhisthira, who was very fearful after the battle of Kurukshetra, pleased Lord Hari, the personality of Godhead. So this is a very long purport. There's a special mercy, and we're supposed to read only part of it. Maharaj Yudhisthira was the ideal and celebrated pious king of the world. Still, he was greatly afraid after the execution of the battle of Kurukshetra because of the mass killing in the fight, all of which was done only to install him on the throne. He therefore took all the responsibility for sins committed in the warfare, and to get rid of all these sins, he wanted to perform 3 sacrifices in which horses are offered at the altar. Such a sacrifice is very costly. I don't think anybody could afford it now, because we couldn't find the Brahmins in the first place. Even Maharaj Yudhisthira had to collect the necessary heaps of gold left by Maharaj Maruta and the Brahmanas, who were given gold in charity by King Maruta. The learned Brahmanas could not take away all the loads of gold given by Maharaj Maruta. Therefore, they left behind a major portion of the gift. And Maharaj Maruta also did not again collect such heaps of gold given away in charity. Besides that, all the golden plates and utensils which were used in the sacrifice were also thrown in the dustbins. And all such heaps of gold remained unclaimed property for a long time, till Maharaj Yudhisthira collected them for his own purposes. Lord Sri Krishna advised the brothers of Maharaj Yudhisthira to collect the unclaimed property because it belonged to the king. The more astonishing thing is that no subject of the state also collected such unclaimed gold for industrial purposes or anything like that. This means that the state citizens were so completely satisfied with all necessities of life and therefore not inclined to accept unnecessary productive enterprises for sense gratification. Maharaj Yudhisthira also requisitioned the heaps of gold for performing sacrifices and for pleasing the Supreme Lord, personality of Godhead. Otherwise, one should take lessons from the acts of Maharaj Yudhisthira. He was afraid of sins committed in the battlefield, therefore he wanted to satisfy the Supreme Authority. This indicates that unintentional sins are also committed in our daily occupational discharge of duties, and to counteract even such unmentionable crimes, one must perform sacrifices as they are recommended in the revealed scriptures. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, Yagnar tat karmanonyatra loko yam karma bandhana 3:9, that one must perform sacrifices recommended in the scriptures in order to get rid of commitments of all unauthorized work, or even unintentional crimes which we are apt to commit by doing so. One shall be freed from all kinds of sins, and those who do not do so but work for self-interest or sense gratification have to undergo all tribulations accrued from committed sins. Therefore, the main purpose of performing sacrifices is to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari. The process of performing sacrifices may be different in terms of different times, places, and persons, but the aim of such sacrifices is one and the same at all times, and in all circumstances. That is, satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, Hari. That is the way of pious life, and that is the way of peace and prosperity in the world at large. Maharaj Yudhisthira did all these as the ideal pious king of the world. If Yudhisthira is a sinner in his daily discharge of duties, in royal administration of state affairs, wherein killing of man and animals is a recognized art, we can just imagine the amount of sins committed consciously or unconsciously by the untrained population of Kali Yuga, who are not performing any sacrifices to please the Supreme Lord. I don't know exactly how far we're supposed to go here. Did I go? We went past the, yeah. Om Jnana Timirandasya Shalakaya Chaksuramilitanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sajjajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Sahita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminitina Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschacha Desatarane Vanchakalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahabharanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namani Gora Tvishe Namaha. Hey Krishna, Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate, Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langayate Grim Tatkripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dina Tarane Krishna Tvadiya Padapankaja Panjarantam Adhyaiva Me Visatu Manasaraja Hansan Prana Pranama Samaye Kapavata Pittai Kantavaro Danavido Smaranam Kutaste. So I guess you read about how Arjuna is called Dhananjaya because he went to get that gold, right? Prabhupada said now they're eating on plastic plates and they're washing them and using them over and over again. But the Brahmanas would eat on a golden plate and then once only. And then they just throw in the dustbin because they couldn't carry it and they're not interested. And then the king wouldn't collect it and put it back in the treasury. He already gave it away. See? So we can't imagine such consciousness. And that nobody else would come and pick it up. These things still go on. I just heard one boy was visiting Juhu yesterday, and he grew up in the movement, I guess, in America. And he'd left his passport and 40,000 rupees in the taxi. And the taxi driver brought it back. So still are, people like that. There was one very famous speaker, I don't remember his name, he's got a little thing on YouTube. He was in India, and he did that. He left his big money and all his stuff in the taxi. And the taxi driver brought it back, and then, so he immediately offered him some, and he said, no, I didn't bring it back for money. It's just for punya, or, just because it's the right thing to do. So fortunately, there still are people. But generally, first place, there's no such wealth. All over the world, not very far back, there was so much gold. Right? The temples in South America, when the so-called, well, they called them conquistadores, they conquered, they just took all the gold. It was all beautiful, carved out, for offering. And the people didn't have gold, but everything was for the temples. And then finally they just melted it all down because they could pack more onto the ship that way. And then where it's all gone to Europe and used for wars. Even America, there was a gold rush. Gold was just on the ground practically. Just a tree would fall over and be full of gold. Now they have to dig tons of earth to get a little bit of gold with huge amounts of chemicals to separate it out. So nature is just hiding away all the wealth. And because of all the sinful people. So we do have the example of Yudhisthira anyway, and then this chapter is the birth of Parikshit, and then he was another example. But so Parikshit, he felt guilty. He didn't even want to be the emperor. He thought he was taking the whole responsibility for all how many millions were killed in the Battle of Kurukshetra. So, because it was just, but he didn't want the war. Krishna wanted it. So that Krishna wanted him on the throne. It wasn't that he wanted the throne, he wasn't attached. But Krishna wanted the proper king, at least at that time, for a little bit longer before Kali Yuga could take over. So just imagine that, they had a yajna and the king gives the brahmanas so much, of course all the utensils were solid gold, and then they're eating and they just leave it behind in a dustbin. Now, like Prabhupada said, paper plates. Now when we go on Navadvip Parikrama, all the kunds are just full of paper plates. But they have aluminum foil or plastic or something also. And they're just floating all over the place. Because people, they don't know the difference between the leaf and the other junk, They're just polluting everything. But we don't find any gold anywhere. But there was so much gold historically. And there's one temple in Bangkok, a golden Buddha. This is a sitting down Buddha that's taller than me, quite solid gold. And nobody knew about him. He was in one temple, but at some time in history the priest had covered him with cement because there were so many invaders. So nobody knew there was gold. And then they went to move that murti, and then the cement fell off. And then they can test somehow or other. So it's like 5 or 6 tons of gold. And on the sign says, please donate, this temple is very poor. Because nobody would think to, take out some of the gold from Buddha. But that's how, and that wasn't so long ago. So when we read about Dwarka, I was just reading about Dwarka in one class, and all this opulence, when Krishna built Dwarka, and there's gold and jewels everywhere. And, it sounds like fairy tale, right? Not possible. But even if you just go back not very far, there was so much gold all over the world, just a few hundred years, with it. But the white man came from South America and different places and just took it all, and whatever they did with it. Now it's hiding, and all the wealth, the jewels, everything is more and more difficult to find. And also good people are more and more difficult to find. Spiritual leaders like Yudhisthira are very hard to find, And Yudhisthira did these, these horse yagyas, is inconceivable expense. We read a little bit about, first place they had to have a big army follow this horse around, and the horse just wander here and there. And then there were battles, and then with the yagya, tons of gold, tons of everything, tons of ghee, going on for a long time, with hundreds of first-class Brahmins chanting perfectly. So that can't be done now. And I haven't heard of any governments that are promoting. But by good mercy, we had the Sankirtan Yagya. Yajnaya Sankirtana Praya Yajanti Hi Sumedasa. The Lord Chaitanya has given us this Sankirtan Yagya. This is for this day and age. That he'll come, Krishna Varna, Tvisha Krishna. He's just like Krishna in quality, but he's also Varna means he's always chanting the name of God. But he's not the color of Krishna, he's not blackish color. Krishna Varna, Tvisha, Sango, Pangasta, Parshana. And his weapons are his associates, Panchatattva, and all of Lord Chaitanya's associates, so many of them. And Yajna is Sankirtan. Yajna is the Sankirtan, chanting of the holy name. And Yajanti Hi Sumedasa. Those who have good brain, they will join the Sankirtan movement. They will do this yagya. So Prabhupada brought it outside of India, first to America, and it caught on miraculously. Prabhupada himself was quite surprised, how it caught on. But it was, everything was ready. Krishna was making so many arrangements. Actually, about a year before Prabhupada came, there was a popular song. They're dancing in the streets, Philadelphia, St. Louis, they're dancing in the streets. And a couple years later, they were. Every city in America, devotees were out many hours a day, 8 or 9 hours, just chanting. They had nothing else to do. Everybody was young and full of all kinds of energy that was being misdirected before, and it was being channeled into dancing and singing in the streets all day. And so naturally it produced ecstasy, made Hare Krishna very famous. And of course still more and more people are chanting. And then they came to India and chanted and shocked the public very much. Became a famous movie, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram. But that introduced chanting to quite I don't know how many, but I know I've heard at least one devotee who said that's the first time he chanted from that movie, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram. And after a while they didn't say Dum Hare Dum, they just, when they went out chanting, the children would all go Hare Krishna, Hare Ram. So it just made us more famous. All the things that apparently go wrong, they turn out good. When they broke the temple there in Juhu, Prabhupada said, very good. This will be, and it was, because when people saw that terrible act of breaking a Krishna temple, then they moved ahead to back the Hare Krishnas and to help us. Otherwise, nobody knew what was going on. It was a private struggle. Prabhupada and a few devotees knew about it. Otherwise, nobody really knew. And just this Mr. Nair, this incredible. Prabhupada said, he thought, I found a simple sadhu, I can cheat him very easily. And Prabhupada thought, I'm getting a very good deal here, and the man is giving me a nice discount. But Prabhupada won, of course. So now devotees are chanting all over the world. But it's not enough. People ask, what do you think about, I don't know anymore, but what about the war in the Ukraine, and what about the, I guess they forgot about the particular disease now. I don't know what the latest problem is. In America, it's all global warming, I don't know what we can do about that, but, because the common people have nothing to do with it. It's just the demons that have their, their huge industries, and of course the animal slaughter, but devotees should think we haven't preached enough, we haven't distributed enough books, we haven't arranged for enough people to have a chance to engage in Krishna's service, beginning especially with chanting and prasadam. We're doing, pretty big numbers, but it's nothing compared to the total population. Does anybody even know the population of Bombay? Nobody knows for sure. It's all estimates, because they go to these little huts and they can't know how many people live there. They don't want to say, So, but it's huge, tens of millions. In many cities like that now, just so many people. And we get, in a big festival, a few thousand or maybe a few lakhs. In Juhu, they get about 10 lakhs for Janmashtami. Most of them, of course, they hear kirtan, some of them get booked. Here also, everywhere, all our temples, of course, get a lot of guests on Janmashtami. Some get a lot of guests every day, but not enough. We need temples everywhere. We need, we don't need big, opulent, fancy temples everywhere. They invited me to Bhayandar last Sunday, and I thought it was a home program, but we got there and it was like a little hallway with shops, steel shutters on both sides. And then I went in, and the one side was like a kitchen kind of, and then there was a temple room, very nice, like beautiful tiles, and Jagannath this big. There wasn't a very big room either. It was totally full of people, and it's a temple, it's an official, full puja, everything going on for Lord Jagannath. So, and I said, where is this place? He said, it's just 10 minutes from Mira Road. And we should have a temple in every station. We easily have a temple in every station of Bombay and lots of people. All it takes is for someone to go out. We're just meeting with China, what to do. Now the foreign preachers can't go to China, and they're shutting down so many devotees groups online. But you just have to be careful, like what kind of words they use and stuff. But they're still preaching more and more. But the stress was we got to make people leaders. We got to get all of them get out, because you got 1.5 billion people there. So everybody has to preach. I think that's our Lord Chaitanya's philosophy. It wasn't just for a few people. Yare deke, tare deke, Krishna Upadesh, right? It's for everybody. I know when I was, I don't know how old, in the church I went to was not very interesting and not much happening, but they had a few classes you're supposed to take when you're 12 years old or something. So they were telling us the history of the Protestants. So, there was Luther. He rebelled from the Catholic Church, and for good reason. And then they rebelled from him, and on, so they had these different acharyas. So I don't remember much, but one of the issues that is a difference between different ones is one, they call it the priesthood of all believers. Everybody should preach, everyone can teach, everyone can be a priest. The other one said, no, only these certain certified, stamped people can be the priest, and you just give him your money and then they pray for you. That was the first thing he rebelled against. That nobody can pray directly, you have to go to the priest. And there's all kinds of preachers like that nowadays. I'll take care of you, just give me your money. and I'll pray for you, and you can do whatever you want, right? So we have to be intolerant and preach the truth, and start programs everywhere and preaching everywhere, and give people a chance. Rath Yatras and all the different festivals. We get opposition different places. In Bali we had opposition from the so-called Brahmanas, the so-called Hindus. And they wanted to stop us completely. A small group actually, but they're very vocal. And demanding that Prabhupada's books are completely banned. But nobody went for it, none of the real leaders, the educated ones. They were saying that too much Indian influence. We saw a thing from that David Frowley, you know him? He's a famous Ayurvedic doctor, American guy. He said, just think of the world without India. There'd be no Veda, there's no Ganesh, there's no Saraswati, there's no, anything. This long list of stuff, no Ayurveda, no this, that. I told people there in Bali, if they want to stop Indian, they say we bring too much Indian influence. But they're called Hindus, and they all worship Ganesh and Shiva and Durga and Garuda, especially, and Hanuman. This is their most popular. So if they want to get rid of Indian influence, they have to throw all that out. Even their language is full of Sanskrit. They have to change their language. But they don't think like that. It's all political. People ask us, people don't like you. I say, yeah. They say, yeah, it's all political, it's just a bunch of rascals. The common people they don't care, The more they I said we should thank them. They're publicizing, they're saying Hare Krishna all the time. In fact, they stopped saying Hare Krishna. I guess they realized, they were chanting all the time to put up this stuff on Facebook mostly, Hare Krishna this, Hare Krishna. So they started saying the sampradayas. So they included anything from it, Sai Baba and all the, TM, everything, lumped it all together. And these sampradayas are against our tradition. So then they really cut their own throats because a lot of people, but Prabhupada was happy when those things, they showed Prabhupada an article one time, I think in Australia, very blasphemous. And Prabhupada took it and he counted. He said, he said Hare Krishna 27 times. He said, this is very good. How many is the circulation of this newspaper? So they said 400,000 or something. He said, that's 400,000 times 27 times. He said, Hare Krishna. It was really good, he said. Devotees were all worried, that this is really bad. But they always took it like that, because they're spreading the holy name. But we want to really spread the favorable holy name with blissful Harinam, blissful kirtans everywhere, somehow facility everywhere in the world. It's happening all over the world. People are chanting. I was just in Dubai, and in that area, so they said there's a Rath Yatra, and we drove across the desert. Didn't see very much for a while, just desert mountains, and then there was some buildings and stuff, and then it got a huge factory or something, and in the back they had an auditorium, and there was a couple hundred devotees there. Rath Yatra going up and down the hallway. They had to do it inside, but it's like that. The whole world, somehow or other devotees are doing it. We just keep telling. We tried to have a Rath Yatra for the first time in Israel. So some Russian devotees, and they built a nice little cart about this big, and they talked to the security guards and the police on a very long beach walk, and they said okay. They do Harinam there all the time, and it's very popular. So, but when they saw the cart, and the devotees came and they put up some tents, and they panicked and they said, no, you can't use this cart. But because it was advertised as Rath Yatra, normally Harinama 20, 25 devotees come. This time like 100 and, I don't know how many, at least 150. They came from all over the country in Rath Yatra, you know. So we had this amazing Harinam, you know. All the people there had seen the devotees regularly, but they never saw that there were so many Hare Krishnas, you know. So everybody, even the security guards were like flipping out. Everybody really liked it. But they had to actually take the card away, even though it was sitting off in the park, you know. So now I'm trying to think of how to utilize that cart. Because we can do like Parashuram Prabhu does in Scandinavia. He does a tour. And he just, like the town, there's small towns and they have a like walking street, they call it, you know, shopping street. And he just does the Rath Yatra. By the time anybody thinks about it, it's over. Because if you try to get permission, you know, it might take a couple of years, you know, nobody knows who to talk to and everything. So he just did it, and then he's fearless. So many Rath Yatras all over England every year, you know. So this is, you know, we have to be like that. Yudhishthira was fearful, not, he didn't have any more enemies, but, you know, he's just fearful of the reaction that he thought he's responsible for all these people getting killed. But even though Vyasadeva and, you know, only Bhishma could convince him to take the job. Even Vyasadeva, even Krishna couldn't convince him. He just said, no, Bhima can be the king, you know. Kunti said, Yudhishthira is very Brahminical, you know. He really liked it, being in the forest and just doing yagyas and different tapasya. They weren't doing big costly yagyas, but, you know, fasting and different tapasya, and he liked that. He was happy with that. You know, he wasn't anxious at all to be the king. Arjuna also was willing to just let him have the kingdom, you know. They're greedy, let them have it. Why should we fight, you know? But Krishna didn't agree, and Krishna wants good government. Krishna wants, you know, he wants devotees to be influential. So I have a new crowd here, but Ramaswar Prabhu, he traveled with Prabhupada, right, in the early 77, you know, for 1 month. And he had a long list of questions he'd been building up. Because Prabhupada, if you listen to lectures, and especially the early, and of course Chaitanya Charitamrita, he talked so much, you know, we're going to take over the world, and, you know, those kind of words. It used to be like common talk, we're going to take over the world. And gradually we talked about how we have to let the world take over us. You don't want to be too weird, you know, right? Got to blend in a little bit. But, so we asked Prabhupada, how would it happen? You know, because it's inconceivable, a few thousand devotees in the whole world. And he said, well, how would it happen? And he said, would it be like a revolution or something, like the Russian Revolution, or, you know, warfare, or would it be somehow devotees get elected? And I know he had a list of different ways he was speculating how this could happen. Prabhupada said, no, none of that. He said, just by the Sankirtan, meaning the book distribution and the kirtan, the atmosphere of the world, more and more people will chant the name of God. He said they can be a Muslim, Christian, anybody, but chant the name of God. This will uplift the atmosphere of the planet until people just, you know, quietly create good government or something. Something will happen. He said historians in the future will be writing, how did the Hare Krishnas take over the world without firing a shot? They'd be trying to figure it out. So we need faith. Like I was in New York. 1 year I got stuck there, kind of, I guess Krishna arranged. I planned to go there and leave right away, and I didn't. And then I get in the daily routine because it's Harinam every day, and Krishna arranged a few medical issues where I needed to finish up. And so we're going out every day, sometimes 10 or big days, 15 devotees, and chanting in the subway stations, just everybody just running. You know what subway stations are like. You don't have subways, right? But same thing, the train station. Everybody's running, everybody's in anxiety. And just chanting. And a few people pay attention, not everybody. But understanding that this is, having a huge effect on the planet. That, devotees are chanting and outside 4 hours a day, every day. When we go in the good weather in the park, then, of course, people pay much more attention to it. More people will dance. But most people are like, I'm all right, I'm okay, I don't need it, But they're getting purified. The whole atmosphere, by this, you can be chanting in your house, just doing your little stuff at home, but it's actually purifying the ether all over. And, by all this now online, everything devotees are doing, is the big job to purify the ether of all the garbage that's out there, right? I was just at the ISKCON Desire Tree. I was there 3 years ago, I think. And they had just got a plaque from YouTube, 100,000 subscribers. At that time, they had 220, by the time they got the 100,000 plaque. Now they have over 2 million. And they figure it's moving up bigger, bigger and bigger. So people are interested. But there's a lot of other Mayavadis out there, and in the name of yoga or something, they talk just like these so-called atheist scholars, the same talk, They have these super rich guys now that become, everybody wants to hear what they have to say, and they ask them about God. God? I don't think this. No need for that, So we have a lot of, competition. But people are taking to it. People are looking for books. People are, looking for... They have all kinds of stuff going on that they have so many departments now. There was like the 45 that work there online. This Vaishnav Seva has taken 4 flats now, connected them all together. They have a counseling department. One of the girls is a psychologist, and they're counseling people, that online, the book distribution department, they're giving out 600 or 800 free Bhagavad Gitas every month. They have to get, somehow they get sponsored, plus people buying books, and many other things. So many video editors and making videos, and people are watching it like anything, and that's only one of our, missions. So. But still, it's a drop in the bucket, 2 million in the world, of how many in the world now? 7 billion. And the COVID thing really showed us the power of media and social media, right? Just like took over the world and made everybody afraid like anything, and afraid to, go outside, afraid to talk to anybody, and, fear-mongering. But we can also utilize that same Shakti. So devotees, it's being done, of course, through the media, but so everybody should think, how we can just get online and do something. From here, many things are going out, I see it. It's kind of embarrassing to speak here because I hear all these speakers here, and they're also learned scholars of everything, and that's what we need. We need all different types of people, learning to think like a monk. People in America, they always say we're monks, when they talk to people. They think they know monks are something interesting, But and in New York, we always go. Everybody goes and shaved up and everything. People like it. We have even devotees say, "No, people don't like that. They want. But no, they like it. And they show you're not afraid, But people are taking books. People are chanting. People are, are doing something. But it's an unlimited project. We have to think of the big picture. So, like Yudhisthira, he wanted to. If we get wealth, we have no objection to someone, getting wealthy as long as they use it for Krishna. Right? Otherwise, wealth is a big burden. Like, who was it? Jagannath Das Babaji couldn't carry 1 rupee. It's too heavy, He went and gave it back. But wealth is, if that's our karma, to be wealthy, to use it for Krishna. Do some yagyas, arrange festivals, distribute unlimited prasadam, we need it everywhere. This crazy war going on, and it's affecting so many devotees. But it's like one devotee in Israel, he just came back from Ukraine, and he said, because the devotees are doing so much food for life in the Ukraine, at least our reputation is very much enhanced with the government, with the common people. So, everything is not nice, but everything has its upside and downside. But take advantage. We have freedom here. We have freedom in most countries, to do our work. So we have a lot of work to do, and we need the young people with a lot of energy that, really think how to expand everything. Don't be satisfied, Don't always want more and more. All right? So you can meditate on Yudhisthira. Prosperity, everything got very prosperous in Yudhisthira's time because he was living right. When Duryodhana's spies who were all over the world, they couldn't find Yudhisthira. And he was very conspicuous. Someone was asking me, how could it be that nobody recognized them? Right? Of course, Arjuna was pretty well disguised, but the rest of them, very conspicuous people. Bhima and Nakul and Sahadev were the most handsome men in the world or something. Draupadi was so beautiful that any man that saw her would almost die, and nobody recognized. Of course, Krishna was protecting them, the illusory energy, so that nobody could recognize. But so Krishna can cover, can do anything. He can make everybody, more and more people, like wanting to be Krishna conscious, realizing in the West now, people realize that none of these material solutions are working very good, Everybody's still getting sick, no matter how many vaccinations you take. There's always a new disease anyway. If they manage to conquer one, there'll be another one. There's unlimited diseases, and as long as there's all this sinful activity. But by spreading the holy name, it's more and more people are giving up meat eating, more and more people are even giving up intoxication, doing the tapasya. So we just have to spread the holy name. That gives everybody this is the yagya of the day and age. It's very easy. It doesn't cost anything. It doesn't cost very much, right? little transportation in many places to get to some place where people can be congregated. Otherwise, a few cheap instruments, no big deal, But get out there, broadcast. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama. Very enthusiastic there. What's your name? Good. So what are your comments or questions? Since time is up. Anyone? Satisfied? You believe all this? You believe that just think about anything, When Prabhupada, both the temples, there's main temples, and, Prabhupada mysteriously happened to be living at Sumarti Raraji's place, and he would see that Juhu land and somehow thought this would be a good place for a temple. No one else would have ever thought that. And nobody believed Prabhupada. Nobody could understand why he wanted a temple there. And then he did a show at this Gita Bhavan here. And he came out and looked down the road and said, there should be a temple here. Now there's a temple here. It's amazing. But he was all alone, and he came to India with a very small group, the first group. Toured around, was in Bombay with very few devotees. I came to Bombay, I stayed there in 78 after Gaur Purnima, so the temple was open for a few months. There was about 25 devotees, 5 or 6 Indian bodied ones. I don't know all of them because there were some old ladies. I never saw them, but, and everybody had visa trouble, and, there's so many problems. But somehow it happened. It's still going now. There's so many devotees everywhere. So Prabhupada went all alone to America with no contacts, no money, no friends, and just chanted, basically, and preached. Quite amazing. His classes from 1966 in New York with Sanatan Shiksha, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Nobody even knew Krishna. Nobody knew anything, And he was talking about Lord Chaitanya being Radha and Krishna combined and all that. But people were fascinated by him. And he managed to get all these books published and gradually opened temples all over America, all over Europe, and then came back to India, which is a huge event for the world. So now we're actually really small compared to, anything else, but still quite big compared to the early days, and just expanding all the time. There's this devotee from Nepal just said they have 50 centers in Nepal now. Because they just go everywhere. And Devakinandan said they started this Nagarati Gram. They're going by bullock cart in the villages, and people are completely nice. And they just make devotees like crazy. They don't have to sign up. They just start chanting, and purify the world. And that's the thing all over the world. We can do that. So anyone want to say something? All right, thank you very much. It's nice to see the crowd here. Although there used to be many more at class. And I have so many classes, it's for so long just staring at a screen, with sometimes only names. They don't even put their picture, You don't know if they're really there or not. So it's nice to be with people. And many companies are saying that when they start now having person-to-person meetings, it's so much better and so much more productive. And so we want to still get people together and have real kirtan with everybody jumping and dancing, and we want all the whatever reaches out, but that we want everything. Just want to spread the holy name. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Maharaj Yudhisthira ki jai. Shri Radha Gopinath ki jai. And Gopal ki jai. Shri Gaura ki jai. Srila Prabhupada's book distribution ki jai. Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hare. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maharaj, for telling us about what is real prosperity and how we have to spread the holy names all around. Thank you so much. We would like to express our gratitude to Maharaj by loudly chanting 3 times. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
You got a huge crew there making garlands, huh? Yeah. That's the gopis' work, making garlands. Some say that women can only make garlands if they can't preach or something. Malati said, I hope they don't find out what an intimate service garland making is. It's very intimate. So you have to think about the form of the Lord and how it's going to fit and how he's going to be dressed and to match the colors and everything, right? Different sizes of murtis. Okay, Hare Krishna. Gauranga.
Holiness Kavichandra Swami Maharaj.